Shalom to my brothers and sisters who are called the bride of the Lamb, and shalom to the Hebrew Israelites, for you are called the bride of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah is the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Shalom. Now, this is part two of this is part two of who is the salvation and righteousness of Yahuwah. This is part two of who is the salvation and righteousness of Yahuwah. So if you have watched part one, you have just learned the meaning of the salvation of Yahuwah. And you have learned a deeper mystery for those who are not aware of that mystery about the salvation of Yahuwah. So take this time now and go to Psalms chapter 98. In this video, we will not read the whole chapter, for it was read in part one. So we're going to take a look at verse 2 and verse 9. And I do want to say this would be a detailed video. So we're going to get straight to the point and get started now. In verse 2, we have read from part 1 that the Most High said he would make known his salvation, and his righteousness his righteousness have he openly showed in the sight of the heathen. So now we are going to look at the word, and the word is going to teach us about who is the righteousness of Yahuwah. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to verse 9. Verse 9 says here, before the Most High, for he cometh to judge the earth. With righteousness shall he judge the world, and the people with equity. This is a verse you definitely want to meditate and you want to highlight, because it's confirming unto us of what the biblical prophecy's been telling us. Remember, my brothers and sisters, I have been sharing with you in many videos in the past that there will be an earthly judgment to take place first before the heavenly judgment can come. All right? So in verse 9, there is a precept, okay, for us to go to, and that precept is Psalms chapter 96, verse 13. All right? So we're going to go there now and read that verse. Psalms chapter 96, verse 13. For it says here, before the Most High, for he cometh to judge the earth. He shall judge the world with righteousness and the people with his truth. Now, when we compare that verse with verse 9, we hear this key word here. It said with righteousness. So we need to get an understanding about the righteousness of Yahuwah. We need to get the word definition on the righteousness of Yahuwah. And it also says here that the people also will be judged with his truth. Now, I don't know about you, but for those who are coming in the whole volume of the book, this should be another key word unto you, and it should, give you a hint about the righteousness and the truth of Yahuwah. Okay, so now let's go back to Psalms 98. Now, to get a deeper understanding about the righteousness of Yahuwah, we're going to first start in the old and then go in the new. Remember, I said in part 1 that the old go in hand with the new, for they work together. They confirm each other. They are each other witness. Just as the Father is the witness of the Son, and the Son is the witness of the Father, and the Son also bear witness of himself. They go hand in hand when you study the whole volume of the book. So first we will go to the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 33, and we're going to read verse 15 through 16. Jeremiah chapter 33. And we're going to read verse 15 through 16. And I like to use this format of the Bible so I can make sure that we do not miss any precepts, okay? Jeremiah chapter 33, and we're going to read verse 15 through 16. For in verse 15, it says here, in those days and at the time when I caused the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith she shall be called the Most High, our righteousness. Now, in the Hebrew word for the Most High, our righteousness, this is the new name that Jerusalem will be known as. In Hebrew, you would say Yahuwah, and forgive my tongue if I mispronounce this, Tisidkinu. Tisidkinu. Yahuwah Tisidkinu. Okay, take this time now to pause your screen and let me get this position. Let's see here. I want to go down. I want to go up. Let me get this position so you can see this better. But take this time now to pause your screen so you can get the Hebrew word for the name of Jerusalem for verse 16. And it's this one right here. Okay, so let us go back. So in verse 16, it said, Jerusalem shall dwell safely, and at this place, this is the name wherewith she shall be called. So she shall be called Yahuwah, our righteousness. I'm not going to try to say that Hebrew word because I know me. I mess it up. You know what? I'm going to let my this site here pronounce it for me. 33 verse 16. Where there's a will, there's a way. All praises to the Most High. So you can hear it for yourself. Now, I'm going to be honest. They may not pronounce it the way we pronounce the Israelite when pertaining to our Father name, but at least we can get an idea of what our righteousness means in Hebrew or how it's pronounced in Hebrew. So we would say Yahuwah Tiskwenah. Okay? Forgive my tongue. I'm not the best at this. Okay? So Jerusalem shall be called Yahuwah our righteousness. All right? Also in verse 16, it said that in those days Judah shall be saved, or Yahudah shall be saved. So this verse is confirming unto us the righteousness of Yahuwah shall exist, shall be there. And the reason why I'm wording this at this time that way, you're going to see why as we go further in this video. So in the days when Judah shall be saved, the righteousness of Yahuwah shall be there. Okay? Verse 15. Now we're going back up. So in verse 15, it gives us another clue about the righteousness of Yahuwah. For it said it is the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David. So who is this branch of righteousness that would grow up unto David? Something to really think about. And that this branch of righteousness shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. This is why I'm telling to you that the righteousness of Yahuwah shall be there in the days when Judah is saved, and when Jerusalem is called Yahuwah our righteousness. It shall be there. Okay? And notice, I want to stress to you, notice in verse 15, it says here that the branch of righteousness shall execute judgment and righteousness. And it's identifying the righteousness of Yahuwah as a person. He said, he shall execute judgment. So we get a confirmation about the righteousness of Yahuwah. It's dealing with a person now. Okay? Take this time now to pause the screen to meditate on these verses. While you're doing that, I'm just checking out one more thing to make sure I didn't leave anything out. And yes, verse 15 do have precepts, so let me click on that so you can have as well. On Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 5, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, and chapter 4, verse 2 in the book of Isaiah. Okay? So the old covenant, or you could say the Old Testament, is confirming unto us that this righteousness of Yahuwah is a person. Okay? Now we're going to go to, let's go to the book of John, chapter 5. Okay? Because we're about to go a little more deeper here, if you don't mind. John chapter 5. Because it's going to tie into the prophet Jeremiah, what he wrote about this he who shall execute judgment and righteousness in the earth. And he shall be present when the days of Judah is saved, and Jerusalem shall be called Yahuwah our righteousness. Okay. John chapter 5, and we're going to read verse 17 through 30. Okay. Verse 17. But Yahushua answered them, my Father worketh hitherto, and I work. Okay. Verse 18. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, not only because he had not only because he had broken the Sabbath, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal to the Most High. So as you see in verse 18, that the reason why the Israelites wanted to kill the Messiah, because they thought he broken the Sabbath. But when you do a further study, you would know that he crossed every T and dot every I, and he kept Torah perfectly. But they didn't have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding of Torah, because his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Torah came from the Father. When you read the book of John chapter 8, it will confirm unto you, as well as many other scriptures, you will learn that the Messiah was personally taught by Yahuwah himself. Okay? Another reason why they wanted to kill him, because they felt like he made himself equal to the Most High. But when you read all the scriptures and you come in the whole volume of the book, you will learn that the Messiah taught the people to worship our Father in heaven. Read Matthew chapter 4, Luke chapter 4, and it go in hand what is written in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, as well as many other scriptures. Okay? But he is correct to say that Yahuwah is his father. For those who like to watch Star Trek, there is a piece of evidence or a analogy that can give you more understanding why the Messiah would say Yahuwah is his father. For when you understand the Creator and who he is and what he is, then you will understand why we, sons and daughters of Adam, call him father. See, we was made by the Creator. We was created by him. So just as in Star Trek, Data called his creator father because his father made him to be, made him to exist. Therefore, we call our Father in heaven Father. Also, with the Messiah, you will learn more about the Messiah that he was there with the Father in the beginning of all creations. And he participated in those creations too. You will learn that he too came from the Father. He was made from the Father. In other words, our Father in heaven also created him too. So he is correct to say that Yahuwah is his father. For further study, read Luke chapter 3 and you look at the lineage. For in verse 38, I believe, that it said that Adam is the son of God. Adam is the son of Yahuwah. So if Adam is the son of Yahuwah in the earthly realm, why, excuse my tongue, why not the Messiah would be the Son of God in the heavenly realm? Do you see how the two realms mirror each other? What's done in heaven is also done in earth. So we had a Son of God in the heavens, known as Yahushua, and we have a Son of God in the earth, known as Adam. Great thing to meditate on. But let us keep reading verse 19. Then answered Yahushua and said unto them, Very, very, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father do, for what things soever he doeth, these also do the Son likewise. So the Son imitate the Father. He does what his Father does. Verse 20, For the Father loveth the Son, and shew him all things that himself do. And he will show him greater works than these, that ye may marvel. For as the Father raises up the dead and quickeneth them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. So he's saying here, just as his Father has the power to bring the dead back to life, even so the Son should have the same power too. Remember, he come from Yahuwah. Verse 22, For the Father judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son, that all men shall honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honoreth not the Son, honoreth not the Father which hath sent him. Now, to understand this verse here, this is the proof that I'm telling you that judgment, the earthly judgment, is given into the hand of the Son, who is the Messiah. And we have found proof of that in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 15 through 16. For the word said that he shall carry out judgment and righteousness in the earthly realm. For those who study the biblical prophecies in the whole volume of the book, you can see that taking place. For that must take place. The Messiah with the 144,000 must take down the beast in order for the 1,000-year millennium to come in the earthly realm. Also, in order for the house of David to be rebuilt as prophesied by the prophet Amos. See, all these things take place in the earthly realm. Okay? And he shall be the one to gather the most high people. Genesis chapter 49, Isaiah chapter 11, and many other verses will confirm this, because there are certain things that have to take place in the earthly realm, Israelites and Gentiles. It has to take place first before our Father to come with his heavenly judgment. The same that John the Baptist did for the Messiah, the same must be done for our Father in heaven. His Son has to prepare the way for him to come. Okay? And when you understand why, when you read a whole volume of the book, you know our Father is holy and nothing can stand before him that is defiled and unrighteous. So the Son has to prepare the way for the Father to come. Okay? On verse 22, you definitely want to highlight that. And then when we look at verse 23, it says here that all men will honor the Son. Remember, the Son is the King of Kings. He shall be the Lord of Lords. In other words, Master of Masters, dealing with, what's the best way I can say this so you won't get confused? He would be above all men, okay? All rulers, but he won't be above his Father. Just as we give homage or respect to King David, it's the same that we do for the Messiah. We give him his respect, his homage as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And the Father is telling me to give you that verse in 1 Corinthians because just to let you know again, the Son make it clear that he's not above his Father in heaven. Okay? But it's in the book of Corinthians. I'm going to find that for you. Give me a second. But this is written in the new covenant. Okay? Here you go. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. For it says here, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods, many, and lords many, but to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord, Yahushua HaMashyach, by whom all things, and we by him. Okay, you can read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5 through 6. So even the new covenant make it clear that our Father is above all. Okay. Then after the Father come the Son. All right. Now let's keep reading. Verse 24. Oh, now the Father also want me to point out to you in verse 23. Notice who sent the Messiah, our Father in heaven. Okay? Our Father in heaven sent the Messiah in the earthly realm, and he was clothed with the flesh and blood of David, descendant, and also he is a descendant of Adam. Okay? Now verse 24. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hear my word and believe on him that sent me have everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. This is another verse you want to highlight because now we will get into the understanding about the righteousness of Yahuwah. Because the Messiah here is giving us a very important step. He said, what? If we hear his word and believe on him that he was sent by the Father from heaven, we shall have everlasting life, and we shall not be what? Condemned. And we shall what? Pass from death unto life. Because when you understand what the first Adam did, the first Adam brought death unto us, Israelites and Gentiles. But the second Adam, who is the Messiah, shall bring us from death to life now. Again, you have to go back to the beginning of the book to understand why the Messiah had to come. You also have to go back to the beginning of the book to understand why Israel kept messing up. When you understand that, then you will understand why a new covenant had to be made. That would be an abridgment between the old covenant and what is yet to come. Okay? Do not get the new covenant confused with the new eternal covenant that should be given unto the house of Israel and the house of Judah. That covenant has not taken place yet. Okay? That is a future prophecy. But right now we are in the new covenant that is established by the Messiah. Again, you have to go back to the beginning of the book to understand why. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 25. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of the Most High, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself. Again, like Father, like Son. And had given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Now, another way to say this is because he is the son of Adam. Do you really understand who Adam was? Do you really understand what it means that he was the son of God and what position he held in the earth? For example, and I think it's in Genesis chapter 3, you will learn that Eve was known as the mother of all living. So if she's the mother of all living, guess who Adam is? He is the father of all living. They was kings and queens. They were ruler of the earthly realm before they fell. Okay. Also, when we look up, going back higher in these verses, it says here that the hour is coming and the dead shall hear the voice of the Messiah. Okay. And when they hear it, they shall live. In other words, they're going to be resurrected from the grave. Because when you understand the three parts to regeneration, you will learn that you are born of the water, born of the spirit, and your body will be changed from corruption to incorruption, from mortal to immortal. You will be an eternal being going back to the status of Adam. A mystery that many do not understand. Okay. So verse 27 again is confirming unto us what the prophet Jeremiah is talking about, that Yahushua HaMashyach, who is the son of Adam, who is the Messiah, who is the son of God, or the son of Yahuwah, he will execute judgment in the earthly realm. Okay, preparing the way for the Father to come. Verse 28, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in the which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice, and shall come forth, they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. So as you see here, that when he do come, as written and prophesied from the old covenant to the new covenant, those who have done good would inherit the resurrection of life. But those who have done evil would inherit the resurrection of damnation. Something to really think about. Let's finish out with this last verse here. I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father which has sent me. You want to definitely highlight that verse, because what the Messiah is telling you, whatever he do is not according to his will, but it's according to the will of Yahuwah. For he shall judge like Yahuwah. He shall be, and because he judged like Yahuwah, his judgment will be just. See, he imitate what his Father does. He don't operate out of his own will. In other words, he don't do his own agenda. He followed the instructions of Yahuwah. And I'm sorry, I am going to read verse 31 to close this chapter out. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. Okay? And to understand more of that, there is a precept for that verse. But maybe in another lesson of the time, we'll talk about that. And that precept can be found in chapter 8, verse 14 in the book of John. And I'm going up a little bit higher so you can get all these precepts for John chapter 5. Take this time now to pause the screen to get that. All right. So now we have gotten confirmation what was written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 15. Okay. Because I do want to go back there. Hold on for 1 second. Let me pull it up in my book. For it says here that the branch of righteousness that grow unto David, he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. So we can see that that will come to pass. Okay? And when that come to pass, in those days, Judah shall be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely, and she shall be called Yahuwah our righteousness. And the reason why, because he who is the Messiah shall be there. Okay? And he shall show all Adam, he shall show the Israelites the righteousness of Yahuwah. Okay? Now the next verse we want to go to is Romans chapter 10, because we're about to get deeper, because I'm sorry, my tongue getting twisted. But at this time now, you're already seeing the righteousness of Yahuwah. But if you have not seen it yet, we're going to go to Romans chapter 10. That's going to really be straight to the point. Okay? Because once you understand the righteousness of Yahuwah, then you have more greater understanding of this new covenant and understand the difference between the new covenant and the old covenant. Okay. So we're going to go to the book of Romans, chapter 10. And I'm going to go in this format here. And we're going to read the chapter summary. And I'm going to read all the way down to, I think, verse 8. Okay. The chapter summary of Romans chapter 10. The scriptures show the difference between the righteousness of the law and this of faith, and that all, both Jew and Gentile that believe, shall not be confounded, and that the Gentiles shall receive the word and believe. Israel was not ignorant of these things. Okay, verse 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahuwah for Israel is that they might be saved. Now, this verse should remind you of what Jeremiah was talking about. For Paul here, heart desire and prayer to the Most High God is that he wants Israel to be saved. And in the part on 1, we talked about what it means to be saved. Again, John chapter 5 also confirmed unto us about what it means to be saved. It gives you a part of it. But let us keep going. Verse 2. I don't know why I'm getting these dark spots here. Let me see what's going on, my brothers and sisters. There we go. I'm just going to put it over here. Okay, trying to see what's going on. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Okay, I'm still recording. Okay, I don't know why I'm getting these dark spots. Let's see what's going on here. I will have to go back. Go back. Let me just try my back button here. There we go. Why is it keep taking me here? And I don't want to go there. So let me see what's going on, my brothers and sisters. Bear with me. Here we go. Now this is better. Thank you, Father. Verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Yahuwah, but not according to knowledge. Now you know how Brother Paul is. Sometimes his writings can trip you up and you're trying to understand what he's talking about. But on this verse 2, you need to meditate on about why would Brother Paul say not according to knowledge? But he's going to explain in verse 3 what he means by that. Verse 3. For they being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Yahuwah. Now, this verse here, you want to highlight, underline it, for it ties into Psalms 98. It ties into Jeremiah chapter 33, and it ties into John chapter 5. Okay? Because it said that the Israelites are ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness. Okay? And they are going about to establish their own righteousness, and they would not submit themselves unto the righteousness of Yahuwah. Now, you're probably saying, why would they not submit themselves to the righteousness of Yahuwah when they have the Torah? See, what this verse is talking about is not talking about the Torah, because they had the Torah, but they still didn't do. Well, not, I'm sorry. Let me back it up. Thank you, Father. They had the Torah. But the Torah, when you learn about the Torah and you come to whole writing the book, the Torah was to teach them spiritual things. But the Israelites got caught up with the task of the Torah and was not learning the lesson of what Torah was trying to teach them. See, Torah was teaching them the characteristics, the morals, the ethics of Yahuwah. The Torah was the Torah was teaching them how to be of one mind with the Father, how to walk like him, talk like him, and think like him. But because of what happened with Adam and it being passed on to the Israelites, there was a block there. Okay? And even when you read the book of Job, when you get a time, my brothers, read the book of Job, because the book of Job is the example to understand what verse 3 is talking about. Okay? See, the Israelites think they can keep Torah in this corruptible body and that they would make it in the kingdom. That's what the Israelites think. But when you read the Torah, you will learn that if you don't keep not one of those laws, you lost it all. Because there's a battle going within you. This flesh is corruptible, and it hinders us and cut us off from the Father. Therefore, we're not connected to him spiritually. Okay? And because we're not connected to him spiritually, we are the walking dead, physically and spiritually, heading towards condemnation. Okay? So let me sum up what I just said unto you. When we look at verse 3, the Israelites, aka Jews, thinking that they could get into the kingdom by keeping Torah by their hand. They think they don't need nothing else to do it. They think that they can do the works of the Torah, or they think they can keep the instructions and the commandments of the Torah without any spiritual help. And you can understand why I said that. Because remember, the Messiah said that we have to worship the Father now in spirit and in truth. This is the only way we can come in the kingdom now. And when you read the prophecies that pertain to the nation of Israel, notice what the Father has to do unto them to get them to that level. Okay, remember I told you about the three groups? You have the bride of the Messiah, the 144,000, and the nation of Israel. Notice with the nation of Israel what the Father has to do unto them. Read Ezekiel chapter 20, chapter 36 through 39. And I want to say Ezekiel chapter 11 and Romans chapter 11. See, our Father's going to have mercy on them, but those who are alive at that appointed time, you're going to have to pass the test. Okay, Israelites, for those who are trying to keep your own righteousness, okay, and not submit yourselves to the righteousness of Yahuwah. So the next question you need to ask, what is the righteousness of Yahuwah? What is it? What is that you have to submit yourselves? Because remember, he gave the Torah, okay? But even with that, the Israelite was falling short of the mark. Okay, so in verse 4, we're going to get more insight on that, okay? For it says here in verse 4, for the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. So I know with my Christians, okay, or the Roman Christians, or whatever you want to call yourself, because some of y'all been indoctrinated by the heathens in this Roman Christianity. But when you read verse 4, you think it's saying it's the end of the law. You reading it out of context. Because when you come in the whole volume of book, Galatians chapter 4 would tell you that even the Messiah was under law. But when the new covenant was established, we had a new ruler to take place. So let me back this up for a second. What does it mean in Galatians chapter 4 that the Messiah was under the law? What it means is that when he came into the earthly realm, he had to fulfill Torah. He had to follow the same rules and regulations as the Israelites. He was no special or different from them. Okay? And therefore, the law was his ruler and judge. Now, when he was crucified and resurrected, it changed. Okay? In other words, a new thing was established. Okay? Instead of him being under law, because what he did, I'm sorry, let me get my tongue right. Instead of him being under law, he was able to fulfill the law. And because he fulfilled the law as the Adam, okay, he became our ruler and judge. Okay. And now that he has become our ruler and judge in this new covenant that he established for us, there is a new requirement. And the new requirement is that you can't come in by the righteousness of your hand anymore. You have to come in by the righteousness of Yahuwah. And in order to come in by that, by the righteousness of Yahuwah, you have to believe. Okay? And we're going to read further down, and you're going to see what he means by believe. And we're going to get also the insight about this righteousness of Yahuwah. But let us keep going. For the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. And the way to look at this verse again, you can say that the Messiah fulfilled the law, completed the law for righteousness everyone believeth. And I was able to find some Aramaic scriptures. Another way you can look at this too, it says here in verse 4 of Romans chapter 10, it says here, for the sum of the law is the Messiah, the anointed one, for righteousness unto all who believe. So he is the sum of the law because he completed it. He fulfilled it. He crossed every T and dot every I as the son of Adam and as an Israelite. Okay? So now let us go back. And you will have access to this link. I do need to make aware unto you. There is a Greek word inserted in one of the scriptures I did find in this Aramaic scripture text. But through further research, the Father gave me the correct Aramaic word for those who are called the assembly or the congregation of Israel, or those who are called the bride of the Lamb. We do have the correct Aramaic word for that, and it starts with an M, just like as you see here with the Messiah in Aramaic, it's spelled Meshikha, and it means the anointed one. Okay, for his bride is also spelled with an M, not with a K. The word that you see as a K is a Greek word. It's a difference between the two. Okay. Just want to put that out and check the letter I because the video will be attached to this video so you can understand why Israelites do not use the word Christians or do not use, or in other words, and do not call themselves Christians. We prefer something more closer to the correct translation so you can get some understanding. Now, for those who do call themselves Christians, what I'm listening for is your heart, okay? Because your heart would tell me whom you serve, all right? And you will bear the fruits. So I do not let that word Christian to be a stumbling block unto me, my brothers and sisters, because what I do for all my brothers and sisters, I listen to the heart because I see the snare and the trap that Satan has set before us that cause a lot of confusion and strife between us. And that is something that we shouldn't be, or we should not allow ourselves to fall in the trap to argue with one another about words. What we should be looking is the heart. Read First John chapter 4 and you'll understand what I mean. Because I've seen those who come in that part. In other words, they have all the correct words down. They dress correctly. They in other words, on the outside they look like the wheat and they talk like the wheat. But on the inside, they are truly a tear. And the only way to see them for who they are, you have to learn how to listen to the heart. That's what the Father used when he judged us. Okay? Now back to Romans chapter 10. So we learn here in verse 4 that the Messiah complete the law. He fulfilled the law. And that's also confirmed in Matthew chapter 5, because he make it known that I come here to fulfill the law. And the Father is telling me to take you there now so we can have that before we proceed, because I don't want no confusion to come in this video. We can go to Matthew chapter 5. And I believe it's verse 17. For it says here, and this is what the Messiah says, think not that I am come to destroy the law of the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So that's what he's saying. He only come to fulfill the law, not to destroy it. Okay. And then here he give us a sign to look for. And he said, verse 18, he says, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law until all be fulfilled. Okay. So this is the verse you can use as a precept to understand what was written in Romans chapter 10, verse 4. So when you see it says here that he is the inner law, what he's saying is that he completed the law, he fulfilled the law, and because he did that, he was able to establish a new covenant for Israelites and Gentiles, males and females, bond and free, circumcised and uncircumcised, Scythian or barbarian. Because when you study the old covenant, for a Gentile to come in or to take part in the old covenant, they had to do the circumcision of the flesh. Okay, so this is why I do say Israelites and Gentiles and males and females, etc. Okay, all right. Now that we got that part out the way, let's continue to read verse 5. For it says here, for Moses described the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. Okay, and we're gonna look at the precept for that verse, but I want to read a little bit more further down. For verse 6 says, but the righteousness which is of faith speaketh on this wise, say not in thy heart, who shall ascend into heaven? That is to bring the Messiah down from above. So when we look at verse 5 and verse 6, it said that this righteousness is of faith. Okay? When you compare it to verse 5, it said, when Moses described the righteousness, it was of the law. Now, that's the mystery behind that. All right? Because when you understand what the word is a Holy Spirit. The word is the law. Whom do you think the law came from? Israelites and Gentiles. Whom do you think put that to be written? Did not the law come from the heavens? Did not the law come from our Father, Yahuwah? Is not the living word the law? When you read the whole Gospels, you will learn that the Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, Herodians, etc., try to catch the Messiah in his words, but they could not because he was wise, he was full of the Spirit, he was full with the fullness of Yah. He was knowledgeable. In other words, he was all of the above, okay? As far as, in other words, the layman term, we would say what? Smart, intelligent. But his intelligence did not come from the earth. It came from above, okay? And because he was wise and filled with the fullness of Yah, he knew Torah inside and out. He even knew when they added on the traditions of men. For example, the Pharisees are known to do that. They added on to Torah, such as they kept Passover during the daylight phase on the Bib 14th and not at evening. Go back and read the gospel and you'll see it. Okay? So, Moses described the righteousness which is of the law. And that's true, because if man do the things that are written in the law or the covenant, he will live, because it comes from our Father in heaven. That would help him from condemnation. You understand? That will lead him. That will lead him to eternal life. Now there's some precepts to verse 5. And the precepts are Leviticus chapter 18, verse 5, Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 11, and Galatians chapter 3, verse 12. Now we're going to go to Galatians chapter 3, verse 12, because it's going to summarize what is written in the old. Okay? And it's going to give us understanding about the new, which pertain to the righteousness of Yahuwah. Okay? So we're going to go there now. Galatians chapter 3, verse 12. But we are going to read a verse higher, and we'll come back to verse 5. And I am going to go in that format of the 1611 format, so you can get any precepts that are written. Galatians chapter 3, and we're going to look at verse 11. Okay. For it says here, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of the Most High. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. And the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. So it is confirming unto you that if you do what is written in the law, you shall live. Okay? Because the law did not come from man, it comes from our Father in heaven. But when you learn about Adam and what changed within Adam, then you understand that why the law will condemn you. Because the Messiah told us, and it's written in the law, if you don't keep one of these laws, you have been condemned. Okay? Do you see now? Do you really understand what I'm saying here? Okay, let me say this again, because I really want you to meditate on this. None of us, not even from the days of our youth, kept the law perfectly. Okay, none of us. Because when you study the Torah, which is the instructions and the commandments that come from our Father, when you study it, you will learn that there are many things set up to work against us in this fourth beast kingdom where we cannot keep the law perfectly. I'm going to use this for example, such as clothing. We learned that our clothing has to be made of a certain fiber. You can't mix fibers. We also learned that in this fourth beast kingdom that we have to work on the Most High Sabbath day, his seventh day, okay? Because of what they set before us. You know, a lot of us just can't quit and leave our job because we have families. So we have to pray to the Most High that he will provide a way for us. But in the meantime, we have to work. Okay? That's another example. Then we look at all the different offerings besides the sin offerings that we have to carry forth. And then when we learn the history about the temple and the high priest, we learn, and also those holy vessels and the menorah and the altar, we learn that all those things have been destroyed and do not exist at this time in the earthly realm. So that has been taken away. Okay. But what this verse here in 12 is saying unto us, if we are able to keep it perfectly, we will live. Because this is the divine instructions, the divine commandments, and the laws and statutes that come from our Father. It comes from him, not from man. So if anything come from our Father, what it shall give us what? Life. All right? That is what that verse is saying to you. Okay? Now, to understand what it's saying that the law is not of faith, because it's talking about the he that shall judge and bring righteousness in the earth. The he that is the righteousness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my tongue getting twisted. The he that is the branch of righteousness unto David. Okay. So when we look at verse 11, it says here, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of the Most High. And that is true because what I just said earlier, the law will condemn you, Adam and Israelites. It will condemn you because you're not made righteousness in the sight of the Father. In other words, the law points out your evils. It points out of your shortcomings and what you're not able to do. Okay. Again, we're dealing with the what's the word I'm looking for? We're dealing with what we inherit from our father Adam when he failed. Okay. This is why it says here, it is evident that the just shall live by faith. And when we go to the precept, it's written in the book of, I hope I say this right, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, which is coming from the Old Testament. And then we have the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 17. And I definitely want to read that unto you. Let's go there now. We'll make this quick. Okay. And we're going to come back to Galatians chapter 3. So we'll go to Habakkuk 2, verse 4. And then we go to Romans chapter 1, verse 17. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. For it says here, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Do you hear that, my brothers and sisters? It says here, this is by the prophet Habakkuk in the Old Testament. It said, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So it's already telling us that we're not upright before our Father. And make sure I want to read this correctly. Let me go to a verse higher. Okay. So based on this verse, it said, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So this verse is already confirming unto us what is written in Galatians chapter 3, that we are not justified in the sight of our Father's eyes. It is no way possible that we can come in by the law, because the law condemns us, okay? Because of our shortcomings and because of what the fourth beast has set before us. The fourth beast has set up many things that keeps us from keeping the covenant of Yahuwah perfectly, all right? So we have to come in now. So in order for us to be justified, that means in order for us to be made righteous in the sight of our Father's eyes, we have to come in by faith. Anybody saying, now what is that? Okay, so now let us go to Romans chapter 1, verse 17 too. And we'll go to Romans chapter 1, verse 17. Romans chapter 1, verse 17. For there is the righteousness of Yahuwah revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. And let me pause here because I want to make sure if I need to go a verse higher or a verse below. Let me read a verse up higher. And then you can see how this ties into about faith. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of the Messiah. For it is written, for it is the power of Yahuwah unto salvation. To everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of Yahuwah revealed from faith to faith. As it is written, the just shall live by faith. So again, this righteousness of Yahuwah is revealed from faith to faith, from the Jew to the Greek, from the Israelites to the Gentiles, for those who believe. Okay? Because it's written in even the books of the prophets that the just shall live by faith. So what did that mean, my brothers and sisters? Let us keep going. Let us go back to Romans chapter 10, because I want you to meditate on what does it mean that the just shall live by faith. Okay? What does it mean that the just shall live by faith? And we're going back to Romans chapter 10. Got one more backspace to do, hopefully. Actually, another one. All right, give me a while. It's taking a while to get back. Okay, here we go. This is getting good. So when we look at verse 5, it said, for Moses described the righteousness of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. So it is true, you will have life if you keep Torah, which is the instructions, the commandments, the laws, the statutes, and judgments. So we know that that is true. Man can live by them. In other words, it will lead you to eternal life, okay? But the problem with the law, what we just learned, is that the law will condemn you, because if you fall short of the law, because the law will be your ruler and judge. I'm sorry, my tongue was getting twisted again. If we fall short of the law, then we would not inherit eternal life. We would be condemned to the eternal death. All right. and especially what's been going on in this fourth beast kingdoms and the snares and traps they set before us. So in verse 6 it said, but the righteousness which is of faith, which speaketh on this wise. Okay, so now the righteousness has changed from the law to faith. So the question is, what does it mean that we shall live by faith? What does it mean to be justified by faith? Okay, now we're going to read further down and get the meaning of that. So it says here in verse 6, speaking on this, why? Say not in thy heart, who shall ascend in heaven? That is to bring the Messiah down from above. So we shouldn't have a thought of saying, who will go to heaven to bring the Messiah down? In verse 7, or who shall descend into the deep? That is to bring up the Messiah again from the dead. So we should not have that thought in our heart, which is our soul, and our soul has a mind. We should not be thinking about who will go down into the deep or into Sheol, which is the heart of the earth, where you have Abraham's bosom and hell, okay? But we should not be asking or thinking of that. Who should go down into the deep, known as Sheol, to bring up the Messiah so he can return from the dead to the living, okay? But what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. Now, this verse you want to highlight because it's telling you, oh my goodness. Oh, we're going to get to the answer about what does it mean to be justified by faith and what it means to, what's the other word I was looking for? To live by faith. What does it mean to be justified by faith? What it means to live by faith. Okay. So we're getting close to this, the righteousness of Yahuwah. The key word here you want to underline is the word. And the Father's telling me I got to go to the book of John, chapter 1. So I'm not going to do it on this screen to save time, but I'm going ahead and turn in my Bible. But I want you to go to John chapter 1. For it says here, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Most High, and the Word was the Most High. The same was in the beginning with the Most High. Okay? And I'm going to go down further down, and I want to read here, starting at verse 13. Let me start at verse 11. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Yahuwah, even to them that believe on his name, which was born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of the Most High. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we believe his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. You definitely want to highlight that, my brothers and sisters, because it ties into what the prophet Jeremiah was talking about, truth. I'm sorry, what the book of Psalms, chapter 96, was talking about, truth. Because it says that the Word, who is the Messiah, who was made in flesh and who dwelt among our ancestors, he is full of grace and truth. All praises to the Most High. All right. And we know the Word come from the Father, and the Word was taught by the Father. Therefore, he should do as his Father. He imitates our Father in heaven. Okay, so in verse 8, the key word is the Word. So we know the Word, who is a spirit, a living spirit, which is the Son of God, the Son of Yahuwah. So this spirit will come unto you. It will draw near unto you, even in your mouth and in your heart. When you go back in the old covenant or Old Testament, look at what the prophet said. It said the word came unto me, or the word came in my mouth. And see, they was not really talking about what we would think in our mind, carnal minds, but what they was talking about was this divine spirit, this Holy Spirit, who's known as the living Word. who is Yahushua HaMashiach. Remember, he is a spirit just like his father a spirit, okay? So it says here, what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth, in thy heart. What is the heart? Your soul. And within your soul, you have a mind. So the Messiah will come into your mouth. He will come into your heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. And what is the word of the faith? It's the gospel. And what do the gospel talks about? It talks about the Messiah, and it talks about the kingdom of heaven as at hand. Okay, that is what the Messiah preached. He preached the gospel that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. All right, and let us keep going because now we can get to the next big important piece that we have to do in verse 9, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Master, Yahushua, and shalt believe in thy heart that Yahuwah have raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. For the scripture said, whosoever believe on him shall not be ashamed. For there is no difference between Jew and Greek. For the same master over all is rich unto all that call upon him. So he is the master over the Israelites and the Gentiles. Okay? And the reason why there's no difference between the Jew and the Greek, we have the same master. Okay? We also, when we receive the new covenant, okay, when we receive him, he brings us back to the status of Adam. That's another reason why we are the same. So we have the same master. We have the same Father in heaven. And we return to the status of Adam. Okay? So going back up to verse 8, the word of faith which we preach, again, he said what we can be justified by faith and live by faith. So now we're coming to the understanding about the righteousness of Yahuwah. The righteousness of Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach. He is a spirit. He is that living word. And when he dwell in your hearts, you will live by him because he will teach you all things. 1 John chapter 2, verse 27 and John chapter 14 through chapter 16. He will teach you how to keep Torah in this fourth beast kingdom. You are now not under the law as your ruler and judge and teacher. You are now under the Messiah as your ruler, judge, and teacher. And through him will he teach you about our Father in heaven commandments. Through him you will learn the judgments, statutes, and laws of Yahuwah. And because of him you shall inherit life. You shall come from you shall be revived, quickened from the dead through him. This is why in verse 2, when we go higher up, it says that the Israelites would not submit themselves unto the righteousness of Yahuwah. And that righteousness of Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach. And we can see that evident today. For they still are caught on, or what's the word? They still bound themselves to the traditions of their forefathers. That's because they are not born again. And because they're not born again, they do not understand spiritual things that the Messiah was trying to teach them when he walked upon the earth. And because they're not born again, they are still the walking dead, bound by the traditions of men, bound by darkness, cut off from the Father and from the Son. This is what verse 3 is talking about. The righteousness of Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach. If you do not submit yourself to him, then you have rejected the Father and the Son. And you're trying to come in the Father kingdom by your own hand. But the law will condemn you, Israelites and Gentiles. It will condemn you because you are corruptible flesh. You are evil and wicked before the sight of our Father. You're not justified. So if you don't receive this new covenant, you are condemned to the eternal damnation. The last place we need to go to close this lesson out is Philippians chapter 3, and we're going to read verse 8 through 21. And I do need to get y'all the precepts for this chapter before I close this chapter out. Sorry about that, so you can have to study in your spare time. Here are the precepts that you need to study Romans chapter 10. Again, go back and read that whole chapter, my brothers and sisters. It's a lot of important things that the word is that the word is telling us, so we can get a greater understanding about this new covenant. Okay. And as for those Israelites who do not believe, do not worry, but pray for them, because if they are alive at the appointed time, when the Father gathered them through his Son, the Messiah, okay, when the Father gathered them, he's going to have mercy on them again. But they're going to have to they're going to have to fulfill the test. Again, read Ezekiel chapter 20 and chapter 36 through 37. And I'm sorry, was that Ezekiel? Yeah, Ezekiel chapter 20 and chapter 36 through 39. Romans chapter 11. And it was something else. Ezekiel chapter 11. It was something else too as well. Also Jeremiah 31 too. And Hebrews chapter 8. So now we go to the book of Colossians not Colossians, Philippians. Philippians chapter 3. And this chapter will confirm unto you what I'm telling you, that the righteousness of Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach. Again, we are dealing with spiritual things. This is why the Messiah said we will worship the Father in spirit and truth, because once we receive him and believe in him, believe that he is the Son of the Most High, believe that he died on the third day and was resurrected, believe that he established this new covenant for us, and all we have to do is faith and allow him to teach us all things, including how to keep Torah in the fourth beast kingdom. For he is now our ruler, judge, and teacher. This is why the Father has given him all powers and authority in heaven and earth, and this is why he committed all earthly judgment unto him. Okay? Now we go here, Philippians chapter 3, and we're going to start at verse 8. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss, for the excellency of the knowledge of the Messiah Yahushua, my Master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win the Messiah. Now, even in this verse, Paul is giving us a deep spiritual understanding. Those who are the servants of the Most High and the bride of the Lamb, many of us have been afflicted, vexed, and oppressed, not only by the Gentiles, but by our own people, okay? And also, too, Gentiles, you've probably been done the same way by your own people, okay? And we have lost all things, families, worldly things, wherever you count dear to you, wherever you count a delight to you, you may have lost it. But notice what Paul say here. I count them as dung so I can win the Messiah. When you understand the value, when you have the Messiah dwelling in you, because when you learn what the fullness of Yahuwah is, and you learn that only through the Messiah can you receive it, because he is the one to bring the fullness of Yahuwah, then you will understand why Paul said he count all those things as done. Let's keep going. Verse 9. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of the Messiah, the righteousness which is of Yahuwah by faith. Underline that verse, because he's telling you the righteousness of Yahuwah. Okay? This is why we justify by faith, because we believe in the Son, and because we accept the Son, we invite him in our heart, and he dwelt in us. And when he dwelt in our heart, which is our soul, because remember, Adam's made of body, soul, and spirit. And you want to ask yourself, who's that spirit that dwelt in you? Either you're going to have the spirit of Yahuwah, and the Messiah come from the Father, and he is the spirit, or you're going to have the spirit of Satan dwelling in you. Read 1 John chapter 3. Okay. But he says here, even Paul said, not by my own righteousness. Because if you try to do by your own righteousness, just as Job learned, which is of the law, you're going to be condemned by the law. Okay. But if you come through the faith of the Messiah, that means once you receive the new covenant, you are now under the rule and judgment of the Messiah. And we read in we read in John chapter 1 that the Messiah is full of grace and truth. Okay. I'd rather be ruled by him. In other words, I'd rather be ruled and judged by him than by the law. At least I have a chance at mercy and grace. All right. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness. So in other words, he said, I'm not going to come in, or I'm not going to try to come to the Father by my own righteousness. By my own righteousness. But I'm going to come in to the Father through his Son. That way, when the Father see me, I won't be defiled in the sight of his eyes. I'll be justified in his sight of his eyes. Because it is he who dwells in me that made me justified in the sight of Yahuwah I. That's what Paul is saying. But let us keep reading. I'm going to read verse 9 again and go down to 10. And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of the Messiah, the righteousness which is of Yahuwah by faith. So the Messiah come from Yahuwah, and we receive the righteousness of Yahuwah by faith. Verse 10, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death, if by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead. Not as though I have already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of the Messiah, Yahushua HaMashyach. Again, he's reciting what he was taught from the gospel and what happened with the Messiah. And we partake in the sufferings of the Messiah, because he said what? We was learning about feet washing, and we learned what that means. And we learned that the disciples is not above the Messiah. For whatever the Messiah shall go through, we shall go through. See, we follow the Lamb, and the Lamb follow the Father. Okay? Do you see how all this tying together? So whatever the Lamb does, as far as imitating the Father, we shall do too. Okay? For the bride and for the 144,000. Verse 12. Not as though I have already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that, for which also I am at. For also, let me read this correctly. For which also I am apprehended of the Messiah Yahushua. Verse 13. Brethren, I count not myself to apprehend, but this one I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press towards the mark for the prize of the high calling of Yahuwah in the Messiah Yahushua. Do you see what Paul say? See, he forget those things which is behind him. In other words, when he was in the old man form, before he was born again, he's forgetting those things, the things that he's taught by man. But he's embracing the things which are before him. And he's embracing what the Messiah is teaching him. He's embracing the spiritual things and what we inherit when we accept the new covenant. So what Paul is pressing towards, this mark that Paul is pressing towards, he's dealing with the higher calling of Yahuwah. And he know he has to go through the Son. So in other words, in other words, brothers and sisters, you have to ask yourself, is he in you? Are they in you? And when you understand what the word is telling you, they are more precious than anything in this world. They are more precious than anything in the heaven. Study the Father prayer. Study John chapter 14 through chapter 16. Again, only the Messiah can bring you the fullness of Yahuwah. So Paul writes here that he pressed towards the mark because he want the price of the high, because he want the price of the high calling of Yahuwah in the Messiah. So he want to receive the highest inheritance. Yes, my brothers and sisters, you will receive your inheritance based on your deeds, faith, and works. Yes. Go back and read Matthew chapter 5. But there will be those that will be called the least in the kingdom, and there will be those who are called the great in the kingdom. It's there. Read the book of Revelation. It'll confirm unto you. Okay? You are rewarded based on your deeds, faith, and works. The deeds and work go hand in hand, but you know what I'm saying here. Verse 15. Let us therefore as many as be perfect, but thus minded, and if anything ye be otherwise minded, Yahuwah shall reveal even this unto you. So we aim for the perfection, and how we become perfect. Again, you have to have him to dwell in you to be perfect. And through him will you be made perfect in the sight of the Most High eyes. And through him will he teach you how to keep these things perfectly. Okay? Nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule, let us mind the same thing. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so, as ye have us for an example. So again, going back studying the word, we have many examples in the body. Many examples in the word to show us how we should walk in this faith. And one of the greatest examples is the Messiah. Go back and read that gospel, and you will see how the Messiah dealt with a lot of things. But there's nothing new underneath the sun, for we shall go through the same thing that he went through. Okay? Verse 18. For many walk of whom I have told you often, and now tell you, even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of the Messiah, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. So these one who are heading towards destruction, again, they are bound by the things of this world. They are attached to the earthly things. But those who are the servants of Yahuwah, those who are the servants of righteousness, our mind is on the heavenly things. We are seeking heavenly things. We are seeking the high calling, okay, of our Father. That's where we are at. This is why we are different. We're the opposite of them. Again, they are still blinded by the darkness that's in this world. Okay? So this is why they would be the enemies of the Messiah and of the Father, because they are still in the world of darkness. Therefore, they're not going to stand these heavenly things. Okay? Verse 20. For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, or the Rabbi, Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay? So again, like I said, our mind is more focused on the heavenly things. Who shall change our body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is able to subdue all things unto himself. Now, this is the verse you want to highlight here. Highlight it. Because this is the third part of regeneration that I'm telling you for the ones who are the bride of the Lamb and for the 144,000. The Messiah set the example. Go back and study the crucifixion resurrection. Remember, he is the son of Adam, and he returns back to the status of Adam. And when you understand 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 4, we said that we shall attain a glory, we shall attain a crown of glory that should never fade away. When you understand what that means, go back and look at the Messiah. And a hint I would give unto you is that you need to ask yourself, where is the Messiah earthly body? And he came in the form, or he came as a descendant of Adam and a descendant of David. But when you study Adam, Adam was made of three parts: body, soul, and spirit. So you want to look at what took place from his crucifixion to his resurrection. And you want to ask, where is his body? Read the last chapter of Luke. It's the reason why the Messiah had asked them to give him something to eat and drink, and why he asked them to fill his wounds. Because what took place with him, body, soul, and spirit, shall take place with us. Return us back to the status of Adam. Another hint, look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 3. So our vile bodies, our corruptible bodies, will be changed or clothed or flashing like his glorious body. Okay? Returning back to the light, which shall make you the sons and daughters of Yahuwah, the sons and daughters of God, the status of Adam. Also in this verse, it says here that when he returned, you can see that when he returned, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things unto himself. I'm sorry, I almost misread that. But let me read this again. According to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things unto himself. Again, just like his Father has the power, he has that same power. It's something about the word. The word is very powerful. When people hear the word, it will pierce their heart, their soul. Again, read Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12. We talked about that in part 1. But this is how he is able to subdue all things. That word is very powerful, because when the word is spoken or when the word speaks, he can subdue it. He can control it. Also, when you read the book of Acts, you can see how there's a woman in the Bible, in the book of Acts, and I have to find it, and that'll be the last thing. We'll close this out. I have to read it to show you what takes place when a person receives salvation. I'm going to find it for you. In your spare time, read Acts chapter 26 and look at verse 16 through 18. Okay? Read that in your spare time. I'm going to count on you to do that for your homework, to understand where I'm about to take you at in Acts chapter 16, verse 14. Because when you read that in Acts chapter 6, not Acts chapter 6, Acts chapter 26, from verse 16 through 18, it takes place in Acts chapter 16, verse 14. And we're going to go there now. And this should close this out. I'm sorry, this is a little bit more longer than I planned, but I have to be thorough, because I want you to see what the words share with me. I want you to understand these spiritual divine mysteries. And I want you to make the connection, the spiritual connection. And when you do, you're going to begin to understand this new covenant. Okay? And you're going to begin to understand why we are justified by faith and why we live by faith. Again, faith is what you have to believe. What you cannot see, what you cannot feel, but you know is to come. And you have to believe on the events that you did not see. And the one that I'm talking about is dealing with the Messiah. You have to believe in the Messiah. Sorry about that. Okay. Acts chapter 16, verse 14. This is what takes place when a person receives salvation. Acts chapter 16, verse 14 through 15. For it says here, and a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worship Yahuwah, heard us, whose the heart the master opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized in her household, she besought us, saying, if ye had judged me to be faithful to the master, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. Now, what is taking place, this is what happened when salvation is preached unto the people. When we preach unto the people about the Messiah, they hear that living word. And that living word, who is the Spirit, is the only one that can go in a person's heart and unharden it and open it so it can receive the word of Yahuwah. And that word of Yahuwah will convert them, change them, and get them on accord with our Father in heaven. Because you see what she did next. To conceal that covenant, to what's the word? Conceal, or to consummate that covenant, or to show an act of faith that she received that covenant. Again, we must have a witness, okay, in heaven and in earth. She was baptized. Even she brought her own household. And she said here that if you judge me to be faithful unto the master, come in my house and stay there with me. So she provided for those apostles. Okay. So as you can see here, this is a perfect example of what it means to come in by faith, what it means to be justified by faith. Okay. So to conclude this whole matter, when we look at Psalms 98, we have learned the salvation and the righteousness of Yahuwah is Yahushua HaMashiach. And if you don't receive him, you have forsaken salvation and you have forsaken the righteousness. And you will be condemned by the law. Okay? I'm speaking to Israelites and Gentiles. Do not take a chance with your soul. Do not. For especially Israelites, I'm talking to you now, Israelites. You do not know. You do not know if you're going to be alive at that appointed time. When the Father brings you out from among the heathens and take you into the wilderness. So you don't know if you're going to be alive for that appointed time. Why take a chance with your soul? And for those who will be alive at that appointed time, please hear my words. Go back and read Torah. Learn from your ancestors. Do not make the same mistakes as they did. Do not reject the Messiah. Because if you reject him, you are rejecting the Father. Okay? Because Yahuwah always sent one to represent him. He always sent a deliverer or a savior in his name. Because as of right now, you are in a corruptible body. You are not ready to meet the Father right now. You have to be prepared for the Father. Go back and read the prophets writing of what they said, because the word said that he has to give you first a new heart and a new spirit, because right now you have a stony heart. Okay? Go back and read those prophets' writings and see what's going to take place. Go back and read it. Because this is a serious matter, because what happened in Exodus shall happen again to you in the wilderness. But this time he's not going to go through 40 years with you. He's going to take you out. And those who make it will be allowed to enter into the Holy Land. And when you read Jeremiah chapter 3, you learn it's only a remnant that's going to make it. And they're going to have to rebuild the nation of Israel up again. So do not be that one that is cut off in the wilderness if you are alive at that appointed time. But those who are not alive at that appointed time, take heed to the word that I'm telling unto you. Go back and read the whole volume of the book. Do not reject salvation and righteousness of Yahuwah, who is Yahushua HaMashiach. For you now cannot enter by your righteousness. You can't do it. Even Job learned that. Okay? The Father is trying to bring you up to higher spiritual things, Israelites. Can't do it. You can no longer do it by your hand. This has to come by spirit now. So you can be justified in the sight of Yahuwah. And you need his spirit to dwell in you. So stop rejecting the spirit. Stop rejecting the one that he prepared for you. Stop rejecting the one that can bring you the fullness of Yahuwah. Learn from your ancestors' mistakes before it's too late. And that's all I have to say. Continue to preach the gospel that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10. But we learned that the salvation they need to receive is Yahushua HaMashiach. Make sure the people are baptized make sure the people are baptized in the name of Yahushua HaMashyach. Just as the Lamb set the example of the water baptism, the apostle continued them both, the water baptism and the Holy Spirit baptism. For Yahuwah has spoken himself through his prophetic messages, which remind me that I need to do this right quick. Forgive me, I didn't do this in the beginning of the video. I have to do it to cover for those other sites that I use. Okay? But Yahuwah has spoken. Listen to those defined prophetic messages. He has spoken to the bride of the Lamb. He has spoken to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he has spoken to the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Please listen to his prophetic message so you can be prepared and ready when the Messiah returns. Okay? I love you all in Shalom. And do you know who that peace that's with you? Think about it. For that peace that is with you shall be the destroyer of chaos. This is why we build peace into a home. Read Matthew chapter 10. And also read Matthew chapter 28, verse 20. Shalom.